There are many criminals who have become notorious for their violent crimes, but none are more feared than these 5 most feared mafia enforcers of all time. From torture tactics to murder, these men had no qualms about using violence to get what they wanted. Barrio's career in organized crime began in the 1950s. When he started working as a bookmaker and gambler, he quickly rose through the ranks of the legacies crime family and became one of its most feared members. Anthony "Tough Tony" Sparrow was a notorious mafia enforcer who operated in the Philadelphia crime family during the mid-20th century. Salvatore Gravano, better known as Sammy the Bull, was a high-ranking member of the Gambino crime family and one of the most feared mafia turncoats in history. He earned his nickname, Little Victor, due to his short stature. But don't let that fool you. Their brutality and willingness to use extreme violence to achieve their goals made them notorious figures in the world of organized crime. From torturing and murdering rivals to intimidating witnesses and silencing critics, these men left a trail of fear and violence in their wake. But despite their notoriety, these men were rarely brought to justice due to the secretive nature of the mafia and the reluctance of witnesses to testify against them. However, over the years, several of these men were eventually caught and convicted for their crimes. Some were sentenced to lengthy prison terms, while others were given life sentences. Despite their downfall, the legacy of these men continues to live on in the world of organized crime. They remain figures of fear and respect among members of the mafia, and their stories continue to fascinate and terrify people around the world. This man was a ruthless killer who had no problem taking lives to solve problems. Amuso's criminal career began in the early 1960s, when he started working as a loan shark and bookmaker. He quickly rose through the ranks of the legacies crime family and became one of its most feared members. Amuso was known for his extreme brutality and was responsible for carrying out numerous murders and other acts of violence. One of his most infamous crimes was the murder of a rival mobster in 1975. Amuso and his accomplices kidnapped a victim and took him to an isolated area where they beat him to death. They then cut up his body and disposed of it in several garbage cans. Throughout his career, Amuso was involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including gambling, extortion, and drug trafficking. He was also known for his extravagant lifestyle and was often seen driving luxury cars and wearing expensive jewelry. In 1989, Amuso was indicted on racketeering charges, and the government seized his assets, including his $1 million mansion. Despite the setback, Amuso continued to operate as a mafia captain until his arrest in 1993. He was convicted of racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder, and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Amuso was released from prison in 2003, but he was soon caught back up in the world of organized crime. In 2005, he was arrested for extortion and gambling, and sentenced to 37 months in prison. Upon his release, he was once again involved in illegal activities, and was arrested in 2012 for conspiring to commit murder. At the age of 71, Amuso is still feared and respected by members of the mafia and law enforcement alike. His reputation as a ruthless killer and mob boss has made him one of the most notorious gangsters of all time. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Gravano joined the mafia at a young age and quickly rose through the ranks due to his ruthlessness and efficiency. As an enforcer, he was responsible for carrying out numerous murders and other acts of violence. In the 1980s, Gravano became close friends with John Gotti, the boss of the Gambino crime family. He helped Gotti solidify his power within the organization and carried out several murders at his request. However, in 1991, Gravano turned against Gotti and testified against him in court. This act of betrayal shocked the mafia world and led to the downfall of Gotti. Gravano provided the prosecution with valuable information about the inner workings of the Gambino crime family and helped convict Gotti on racketeering and drug trafficking charges. He was sentenced to 19 years in prison, but was released early in 2002. After his release, Gravano wrote a tell-all book about his life in the mafia and appeared in documentaries and TV shows. However, he continued to be involved in illegal activities and was arrested several times on fraud and drug charges. In 2015, he was arrested again on racketeering charges and is currently awaiting trial. Despite his numerous arrests, Gravano remains one of the most feared mafia turncoats in history. His betrayal of John Gotti sent shockwaves through the mafia, and his testimony helped bring down one of the most powerful crime bosses of all time. earned his nickname due to his ability to intimidate and his willingness to use extreme violence to achieve his goals. Speranza's criminal career began at an early age, and he quickly became involved in the Mafia. By the 1950s, he was a feared hitman for the Philadelphia family and was responsible for several murders. One of his most notorious acts of violence occurred in 1959, when he was hired to kill a member of a rival crime family. Speranza and his accomplices lured the victim to a secluded area and shot him dead. He was also involved in the murder of a local businessman who refused to pay protection money to the Mafia. In the 1960s, Speranza's violent activities caught the attention of the police, and he became the target of a manhunt. He managed to evade the authorities for several years, but was eventually arrested in 1969 on racketeering charges. Speranza was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was released early in 1972. However, his criminal activities continued, and he was arrested again in 1975 on drug charges. He was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was released in 1980. Despite his criminal record, Speranza continued to operate as a mafia enforcer until his death in 1989. He was shot dead outside his home in Philadelphia, and his murder remains unsolved. His reputation was built on his ability to handle difficult situations with extreme prejudice, earning him the nickname the strongest man in Brooklyn. During his reign of terror, Vario was involved in numerous violent acts, including the murder of several rival mobsters. One of his most infamous acts of violence occurred in 1969 when he ordered the murder of a suspected police informant. He had the man kidnapped, taken to an isolated location, and brutally murdered. To make matters worse, Vario even taunted the police by sending them a letter detailing the crime. Despite being wanted for multiple murders, Vario lived openly in Brooklyn for years, even attending social events with his wife and children. He was eventually arrested in 1984 on racketeering charges and sentenced to 100 hours community service. However, he was later convicted of conspiracy to commit murder for hire and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Vario died behind bars in 2003, leaving behind a legacy of fear and violence. So who are the most feared mafia enforcers of all time? Michael Francis Rucci, aka Mikey Scars, was a ruthless mafia soldier in the Bonanno crime family during the late 20th century. He earned his nickname due to the numerous scars that covered his body from various violent encounters. Rucci's criminal career began at an early age, and he quickly became involved with the mafia. By the 1970s, he was a feared hitman for the Bonanno family and was responsible for several high-profile murders. One of his most notorious victims was William Wild Bill Mossel, member of the rival Genovese crime family, who was shot dead in front of his wife and children in 1977. Rucci was also involved in the brutal murder of 2 New York City detectives who were investigating the Mafia. In 1985, he was arrested for racketeering and conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Despite his criminal activities, Rucci lived a lavish lifestyle and was known for his expensive tastes. He enjoyed fine clothing, expensive cars, and beautiful women. However, his lavish lifestyle may have contributed to his downfall, as it is believed that his arrogance and greed ultimately led to his demise. After his release from prison in 2000, Rucci attempted to lay low and avoid the authorities. But he was soon caught back up in the world of organized crime and was implicated in several illegal activities. In 2004, he was arrested for gambling and extortion and sentenced to 6 months in jail. He was released in 2005 and went into witness protection, but little is known about his life after this. Let's take a look at their stories and find out. Number 5. Paul Vario. Paul Vario was a powerful mafia capo in the Lucchese crime family who gained notoriety for his brutal enforcer skills. Number 4. Michael Francis, Mikey Scars Rucci. No. 3. Anthony Tuff, Tony Sparrow. Number 2. Salvatore Sammy, the Bull Gravano. Number 1. Victor Little, Victor Amuso. Victor Amuso was a notorious mafia captain in the Lucchese crime family and one of the most feared gangsters of all time. These men are some of the most feared mafia enforcers of all time.